everybody, to Where's Your Focus podcast. My name is Linda.
And I'm Karen. Hi.
And today we are talking about the pineal gland. Before we get into that, though, let's hear about what's going on with the Schumann's resonance.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, what's going on over there? It's really not a whole lot different than what's been happening in the last little while. The frequency has kind of raised a little bit. I think we went up to 8.3 over the course of the last couple of weeks. And this week we actually went up to, within the last week, we went up to 8.6. In Italy and Russia, remember a couple of weeks ago, we had that 5-hour blackout? Well, on the 6th of March, there was actually an 18-hour blackout. Ooh. So last week when we finished off, we were around the power of 16, I believe 14 or 16. I'm not sure. Just let me check here. Let me check and get to my notes. We were 16. And on that day, which was last Wednesday, it actually increased up to 19 that day. And it stayed there until around Saturday when the power reached around 30. And that was when it hit the 8.6 hertz. And that was the highest that it's been in hertz, so the Schumann's resonance. And then as it started to come back down by the 6th, it went to, that's when we went to the blackout for 18 hours. Yeah. So when it came back on, it was pretty much calm at that time. And, but by the 8th, it went up to a power of 38, but the frequency stayed down just around 7.5 hertz. So it's hard we know there's stuff going on. We're just not quite sure what, right? And then in the heart math, with those other 7 areas where they have the meter to read it was South Africa that was flat since early December. It started picking up in February, and remember, it was skyrocketed. It was like power of 600. Well, it's still the highest of the 7 places, but it's down on the lower end. Well, not low, it's still at 246 power, but it did go down in the last week down to 119. Now, yes, well, 2 days ago, it was at 246. But all the other 6 places are between 33 to 60 hertz.
Okay.
So there's big differences there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not hertz, sorry, 33 to 60 power. Okay, because the hertz are always lower than that. So we've got Lithuania and Alberta, which are on the higher ends of the last 2. Alberta's around 57.5 power. That's what it hit last week. And then we have California, New Zealand down around 33 and 35. So we're kind of all over the map with it, like depending on, but it's like this. It's just steady. So we know it's changing. Yeah. We know there's all kinds of changes coming in there. And Saudi Arabia is probably right in the middle at around 48 power. Yeah, so that's pretty much where we are. Like I said, not a big change of what's been happening over the last few weeks. We've got that wave that's going on, right? But there's no really high peaks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's interesting.
It really is. And it's interesting too to see. I wonder how, because you said it was South America, right? Or South Africa that's getting that higher. I wonder if how much that affects the people that are there.
I wonder. Yeah. I wonder. Yeah. Yeah. You gotta, yeah. I don't have anybody on my friends list on Facebook from South Africa. Do you?
No, I don't either.
So it'd be interesting to, I'd be curious. So if anybody knows anyone from South Africa, ask some questions and let us know if they have to be feeling it. Like, I can't imagine that they're not feeling it, right?
Yeah, there has to be something kind of, some kind of spiritual bump going on.
There has to be. There just has to be. And I mean, right now, that's fairly high for Alberta as well, 57.5, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So California's down to 35. Yeah. So, yeah. So what's going on with the moon?
Well, so we're just coming out of Capricorn. We came out of Capricorn yesterday.
Okay.
But the Capricorn, we went into Capricorn on Saturday at about 9:25 p.m. at night. Or we went into Capricorn, I should say. And what happens there is, so the next 3 days, we kind of been focused on developing our talents. So, getting more into, and because we're in the waning phase of the moon, the energy is more turning inward now. So we're not into expending so much energy forward. We're more turning inward. So now it might be time of planning to take a new class, might be time for, you might be thinking about learning something new, and also about how to develop already established skills and talents for yourself. Um, what else did I get there? Expanding knowledge. Again, expanding knowledge, and also you're also starting to map out your path. So this is over the next 3 days, because and the reason why I'm kind of talking to, because it kind of moves into when we go into Aquarius, which we did yesterday at 2:48 in the afternoon. We are more now, the planning part, and now we're kind of going to a spiritual um, thinking. So all of this, like, talent building and kind of looking for new classes, now we're kind of going into the spirituality aspect and how we can bring our spirituality to the community. So this is this Aquarius phase that we're going into right now. We might also feel a need for social connection over these next, and we stay in this phase until tomorrow in the morning. We're going to switch. So right now we're kind of in this, like, needing to connect, needing to talk, maybe work out some ideas spiritually. Um, and get into higher forgiveness. If we're getting a lot of emotions, we might get a lot of emotional triggers, which we're going to tomorrow. But now we're like, through this spirituality, if we can do some of that deep forgiveness work and getting through some stuff right now, it's going to release us from those deep emotions that are going to start coming to get triggered in the Pisces phase. And
Okay.
and the Pisces phase is all about emotional intelligence. And that one starts tomorrow. Now the new moon doesn't hit until Saturday, and we're going to be going into Aries on Saturday. So right on the new moon, we're stepping into more confidence, and more self-assuredness, so we can take on projects and feel good about it, right? But over the next couple of days, be careful. We might be, if the emotions are intense, we might be drawn to fall into old habits, addictive behaviors, things like that, to kind of step out of it. Or you might feel like, oh my God, I need a change of scenery, go on vacation or something, like you need a change of some sort. But if you can sit with the emotions and allow yourself to kind of educate yourself within it, it helps to upgrade that emotional intelligence that we're looking for. There we
Okay.
go. So I'm
Not
taking a new approach to the moon because I've been learning about different cycles, and the moon is part of these cycles, these learning cycles, and each sign brings a different learning cycle with it.
okay.
So I'm using that along with the other planets to kind of make a, yeah. So we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah,
Interesting. It's also interesting, right? Like the more we learn, the more we research, the more we yeah, it's just so interesting.
it really
Yeah.
is. Yes, it really is.
Yeah. So today we are looking at the pineal gland. So what we can expect in today's episode is we're actually going to talk about what the pineal gland is, where it's located, what the benefits are, how it's activated, what happens when it's activated, all that kind of stuff, right? Also, we're going to touch on the calcification of the pineal gland and how to decalcify the pineal gland. So we're getting into all kinds of things. And Linda and I always have a meeting before our podcast, and we had a meeting on Monday. And I believe it was Monday, right? Yeah. And neither one of us were really ready for the meeting. So we did a lot of research between now and then. But what happened at the meeting when we were talking, we had a little bit of conflicting information. So it kind of drove me into looking at the different books, because we both have different books, and Linda researches in some of her books, I research in some of my books, and we do some research online. So we look everywhere to find the information that we present to you. But what I thought interesting was, okay, so Linda has that in her book and I have this in my book. So what's everybody else saying, and what's actually the right thing, right? Or is it both right? So what it made me do was actually go back and look. The first thing I did was I thought, okay, I've got an Atlas of the Body book. That's one from one of those old, what is it called? Let me see, I've got it wrote down here. It's Funk and Wagner, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's from 1980, and it doesn't even mention the pineal gland. Okay. So anyway, I went looking and I found in the encyclopedia, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, they actually had a write-up in there, and it was published in 2005, and they had a write-up in there about Galen and all of his talks that he did on the pineal gland. And he started out in ancient times. He wrote very lengthy, like there was all kinds of things that came out. And he actually called it, how did he say it? It was a psychic pneuma.
Yeah. Pneuma.
Saying that the pineal gland was filled with the psychic pneuma, and it was a vaporous substance that he described as being the first instrument of the soul. Now, over time, you saw all kinds of changes regarding the science of the pineal gland. In the Middle Ages, they talked about it being a worm-like particle of the brain that controlled the flow of animal spirit between the middle and the posterior ventricles, which I thought, well, that's pretty interesting, right? Animal spirits. And we have spirit guides, we have animal spirit guides. So that was really interesting for me. And another thing that they said, which kind of clicked something, is in order to release that, or to make those, to bring those memories come forth of the animal spirits, to look up, to look way up, right? And some people actually do that. I'm one of them who will do that before a meditation.
Yeah.
Right?
It
And
activates
I don't know why I would do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say, Linda?
It activates the alpha brain waves.
Okay. So I knew I would do it. I didn't know why I was doing it. Mm-hmm. But then he also said that when looking down, you close that passage. So you kind of trap the animal spirit in that spot, and it almost goes dormant so that you're able to think and focus, which again probably has to do with the brain waves, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting. And then Descartes, how do you pronounce his name? He's French, I guess, is Descartes. Mm-hmm. He was a French philosopher he concluded that everything was open to doubt, right? Everything. And he lived between the late 1500s and early to mid 1600s. And so what his thought is, I think, therefore I am, which is kind of where we are today. So everything, and again, the book that I looked at with the encyclopedia didn't mention the pineal gland in the 1980s. So what are they trying to hide from us, right? Like what's being hidden and what's not being hidden. And then I found a journal of pineal research that started in 1984. And that journal is available online, guys. There's so much information in there. It's amazing. And what it is a peer-reviewed scientific journal researching the pineal gland. And it had quite a lot of high citations in 2018. So the reports, right, where it was named in other articles for their studies. So that's quite interesting. But like I said, no matter where we look, there's always that spiritual aspect of the pineal gland, no matter what it talks about, what is being produced in there and what's happening and all that kind of stuff. There's always that spiritual aspect of it. I mean, we know that that French philosopher who was Rene Descartes, he called it the seat of the human soul that connects the physical and the spiritual world. And then we have in neurology, which I also looked up, a neurology of the pineal gland, and they refer to it, this was interesting as well, they refer to it as the gene isis. The gene
Yeah,
isis.
that's interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Mhm.
And if you put it together, it's Genesis. And if you think about the book of Genesis in the Bible, in the beginning, right?
Yep.
And if you translate it to gene of Isis, Isis actually means asset.
Okay.
So it's so interesting. And then the ancient Greeks called it our connection to the realm of thought. And the Buddhists, well, they've always, I mean, it's always been a symbol of spirituality there.
That's
And
right.
Hinduism, seat of intuition and clairvoyance. And even with Jesus, right? He talks about the eye being open. And if the eye is open, the body is full of light.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is
So
amazing.
it really is. So getting into what exactly the pineal gland is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. So the pineal gland is about the size of a grain of rice.
Mhm.
And it sits between, you have the thalamus gland, and anybody who's taken a class with me, they know about the thalamus gland. This is the very first gland that gets formed in the womb, right? So the pineal gland actually sits right in the center of that. Okay. And it now this is where some of the controversy, because you'll read some places that it produces serotonin and melatonin, and other places you read it only produces melatonin. But no matter what, it is producing this circadian rhythm, right? And that it gets activated by the light waves. So during the day, you're producing serotonin. That's where your body's producing serotonin, keeps you awake, makes you happy, gives you all these great feelings. And then as soon as it starts to get dark, your body starts to produce melatonin. The pineal gland starts to produce melatonin. And the amount of melatonin that gets produced is according to the amount of serotonin. And they call this your circadian rhythm. So your wake and sleep cycles.
Exactly. And if you look, there's actually a YouTube video from a doctor. I can't remember what his name is, and I don't think I wrote. Oh, yeah, I did. Gil Headley, Dr. Gil. And you'll find it on gilheadley.com. He's quite funny, and he explains to you, he has a video out that talks about the pituitary gland, which we're not really talking about today, and the pineal gland. Now you're going to hear like different ways of pronouncing the pineal gland, pineal, they're both equally acceptable. They're both fine, right? But what he does is he talks about how to find these glands, okay, in your head. So if you're doing a meditation, you can actually bring your energy right to that point. So what he says to find the pineal gland is just above your ears, just like the floppy part of your ear on the top. If you put your finger on both sides and imagine going straight through, okay? Now you put another line on the crown of your head and going straight down. Where that intersection crosses is where your pineal gland is. So if you can picture that when you're coming in. Now, your pituitary gland is about 2 inches in front of your pineal gland and slightly above, I believe, or is it lower?
It's lower.
It's lower, yeah.
Yeah,
It's just trying to picture it in my head.
closely
Yeah, it's
connected to
just
the
a little bit lower.
hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus is just below the thalamus.
Right. And so when you look, if you want to find where your pineal gland is when you're doing this meditation that he does, your eye sockets actually come in. And when your eyes come into your head, they actually cross over. So at that section of where the cross is, you'll actually see it here as well when you go in straight from the bridge of your nose. And where was the other one? He said the soft palate of your mouth. So if you put the tongue up to the roof of your mouth, follow all the way back the hard palate right till you get to the soft palate spot, and you put an arrow up through there and then in through where your eyes cross over. That's where your pituitary gland is. And then, so just back about 2 inches, you're going to find your pineal gland. Yeah. So
there was actually another reference through all of my reading where they speculated that we actually did have a third eye at one time.
Oh,
and
really?
The pineal gland was part of that. And then through evolution, we didn't need that physical aspect of the third eye. And it's slowly just went to just a gland operating inside.
Wow. So, and that kind of makes sense, right? Because how you see the third eye in many of the drawings and stuff from the past.
True.
So,
yes.
And the pineal gland, it resembles an eye.
Yeah.
Because it has like it has all of the cornea and the oh, help me out here, Linda.
The iris.
The iris, and exactly. Yeah, it has everything. And if you actually split the brain in half and you look at it from the side, it actually looks like the eye of Horus.
Yes. That was so amazing. And I had to pull out my because I have an atlas of the actual organs and what everything looks like, and I had to pull it out and look, and it does. It's so amazing.
It really does. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So, and it has the lens, like it has the cornea, it has the retina, it has everything in there. So it resembles the eye.
Yeah.
Right? It's so incredible. Crazy. Yeah. It's so crazy. Yeah. So we were talking about the waking and sleeping cycles. So the pineal gland, what regulates the waking and the sleeping cycles. So basically the melatonin is what secretes from the brain whenever we are asleep. And we've talked about this. Not necessarily talked about melatonin, but we've talked about the benefits of sleep, right? And all of that. So when we're in the dream, we in the dream episode, we talked about the oh my God, sorry, the sleep benefits. Kind of repeating myself here. So the melatonin, it's highest around 1 to 4 a.m. from what my research says. Has your research done anything different than that?
That's pretty close to the exact same thing. Almost across the way, it says the exact same thing. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And like we talked about during the dream episode, we talked about how sleep helps us with regeneration. Melatonin does all of that, right? So as we're secreting that melatonin, that is actually regenerating our body. It's repairing our DNA. It stops the cortisol over secretion, which is what causes anxiety and stress and all of that stuff. So that melatonin that's produced in our pineal gland is not only does it help with visions and the connection with the divine from the pineal gland, but it also helps regenerate our body. So it's very, very important.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And the pineal gland also plays a role in our mood stabilization.
Yes.
And they're not, I don't think that there's any support, but it does help to tell the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland where the hormone production is in actually the endocrine system.
Okay. And I did read as well, Linda, that with the hormones and stuff, and how was it went? The low. Anyway, I think we'll get into it a little bit later on. I think I made some more notes on it because when I found out about the thyroid gland, because that's all hormone, right? And when you don't when you produce a low amount of melatonin, it can affect your thyroid, which was really interesting to me because I have a thyroid disorder.
Yes, yeah, it's funny how common that thyroid disorder is.
Really is, right? It really is. And then when you put it in connection, like it was never that common years and years ago, but when you put it all in connection of the pineal gland and what's happening. Anyway, we'll get further down as to what is actually happening there. So yeah, so it's a plays a crucial role in hormones, but also, so what it is like a floating reservoir of water. So it's filled with water, but it also has crystals
That's right. So it's got
inside.
three different types of crystals inside the pineal gland. And this is what really piques my interest about this, because a lot of like the pineal gland is actually creating a lot of the world around us through these crystals. You have three different types of crystals, and this is the only other place you have one type of crystal is in your inner ear, and that helps you with your balance, right? But in the pineal gland, we're producing three different types of crystals: a cubic type of crystal, we have a cylinder type of crystal, and we have a hexagonal type of crystal. And so the thought behind this is that these crystals are actually connecting to the outside world energetically and creating the world around us. And we can actually insert different visions that we want to see in the outside world into this gland, and it helps to create the world around us. So it's working with the energy system in that way, just like crystals work with the energy, right? So we can, if we want to have
Exactly.
certain influence, if certain crystal influences, we just carry them with us and we can have that influence in our energy field. Well, the pineal gland is creating our own crystals.
Yeah. So we have, and I mean, we've always known this, but we have everything inside of us
That's
that
right.
we need.
Yeah.
And that's where the manifestation comes from.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. So how it works is, and this was interesting as well. As soon as the light hits, as soon as you wake up in the morning and the light hits your eyes, right, it goes in and sends an optic, sends the messages in through and kind of wakes everything up with the serotonin, gives you your energy for the day. As soon as the light starts to dim, then it triggers the melatonin and so on. But when you think about it, and that light, and what Jesus has said about when the eye has the light, the whole body is filled with light. And then you think about the pictures of how Jesus always had that halo, right? And angels will have halos. And then there's pictures with the Egyptians and everything. And you always see that kind of something around their head, right? And so is that what it was? Is that, did it actually glow out like that at a certain time? It's hard to know, right?
To know. Yeah.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
So what we do know that though is that the earth is changing, right? The vibration of the earth is changing. We've been watching the Schumann's resonance. We know that at least since 2012, it's been changing since the awakening started. And we know we've done reporting of 2, I think, solar storms that we've had since we've done the podcast.
Yeah.
So that's making changes in the sun.
Right.
The sun is the light that we're receiving, that we see when we open up part of the light. I mean, all light comes into our body, but the sun. So if the sun is changing in brightness or in color, and these crystals that are in our mind, and I don't think you had mentioned that yet, Linda. I know you were probably going to get to that next, right? And I kind of butt in. I'm sorry, talking about the compression of the crystals and how the no, okay, how the compression of the crystals, it sends out light, right? So all of it is so connected.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring that up, because as the sun and its light starts to change, that is actually hitting our pineal gland and it's changing us inside. It's changing our vision of the spiritual realms and the other astral realms, which we're going to talk about later. But this is the knowledge, and the more that this happens, the more that gland is going to wake up and allow us to see deeper aspects of ourselves and the people around us, right? So this is what's happening. This is the greater scheme of what's going on right now. And the pineal gland is pivotal in this.
Yes. So we need to make sure that ours is working properly.
That's right.
And that it's balanced, because we know something is happening
Yeah.
The world is changing at this point, and we can tell it by the Schumann's resonance that's changing. People are feeling different. People are waking up. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. So we know that we need to be prepared for whatever is coming our way. And I think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
I really do. So if the pineal gland is not functioning properly, then there's some things that we can have a look at to see that, okay, well, maybe it's not functioning properly. So a couple of those things would be our inability to handle stress, okay? Not able to think clearly, not have good memory, not have a good memory. Now, that's a little iffy because I know there's a lot of people that are saying their memory has been a lot worse over the last little while. Now, another explanation for that is that we only keeping what we need.
That's right.
From now on.
Yeah.
So the memory part of it may have been really true a long time ago. Like I said, the science is always changing, right? Right now, everyone is saying the same thing. And I feel that, like, I don't know if your memory, Linda, has been affected at all.
It has, but I've just chalked it up to the fact that it's stuff I'm not supposed to remember. Like,
Yeah, I
and
think,
I let go of stuff because I need the processing space in my own brain to be able to move into these different
bring in
realms.
new.
And the type of learning that I'm doing right now is just not even anywhere near where I was 2 years ago, right? And I'm sure that everybody is kind of feeling that way. And
Exactly.
the mind can't remember everything. It can only remember the most important. And also, too, we have connection to complete collective knowledge, like wisdom is there. Therefore, like, we don't really need a lot of
Remember.
this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So if we look back, all we have to do is look up and allow that information to come in as we need it.
That's
right?
Yep.
So yeah. Anything else? There's and you know what else too, which kind of clicks with me and the pineal gland is, how a lot of people go through depression over the winter?
Mhm.
There's less sun, so they're getting less light, right? That's interesting. So if you're in that space during the summer months as well, then we know you might have a little bit of an imbalance there with your pineal gland, unable to relax your mind, all signs,
Yeah.
not able to feel negative thoughts.
Yeah. And also, your sleep cycles are off. That's a sure sign that there's something definitely off with the pineal gland. And also depression is a big one because, like we said earlier, we have the serotonin, melatonin, that's your circadian rhythm. And depression sometimes is the result of lower serotonin production during the day. So sometimes depression can be a sign that things are not in a good rhythm with the pineal gland as well.
Right. And the melatonin depends on how much your serotonin is.
Right.
So if your serotonin is low, your melatonin is going to be low as well, which is going to really, knock you off your sleep cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So and the overproduction of melatonin is another thing, right? Because the overproduction can lead to low blood pressure and improper functioning of the thyroid gland.
Yeah.
Hello.
And the one and a lot of times when you have thyroid issues, you want to sleep all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which is again that overproduction. And is it an overproduction of melatonin or is it not getting enough serotonin during the day? Right.
Well, and that's just it.
This is
because the serotonin, that's it, because it needs the serotonin to produce the melatonin, right? So yeah. So it's like you say, it's a circle, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It is.
So
amazing.
It is, yeah. So pineal gland that's functioning properly or is balanced, right? So there's definitely an increased sense of awareness because you're able to have that connection easier. You're able to see better what's around you. It's almost like you can become more focused and you can see through. I know the veil is lifting or falling, however people want to explain it, but it's almost like you can see through that veil.
Yeah. And
right?
it's when synchronicities are coming together, you can
Yes,
see that they're coming together. You can feel the inspiration being pulling your energy in that direction. And these are really sure side tales that your pineal gland is operating just as it should. And being able to kind of see the deeper aspects of what's happening with people and their true intentions behind the things that they are saying or doing. These are also pineal gland things. Also understanding the deeper aspects of who you are and what your energy system is saying,
absolutely.
and connecting to that energy system, and really knowing what the energy system is trying to communicate to you. This is also a deeper aspect of the pineal gland.
Yeah. It's like you have that, it's like, it's an inner knowing kind of thing when it's functioning properly. Like you're talking to somebody, like you said, somebody is telling a lie, you just know. You just know that that's not true. Right? It's pretty, yeah. So
Yeah.
there's all kinds of things that happen there when we're in balance with the pineal gland, when we have it functioning properly.
That's right. And certain people have specific types of talents that live in the pineal gland. So as you start to wake it up, you're starting
Yes.
to get in tune with these specific types of talents, like being able to predict the future, being able to, dream predictive dreams, which we had talked about in the
Visualization.
last episode. These are things that start to happen when we can fine tune our talents as the pineal gland is starting to wake up more and more. We're starting to see these deeper gifts coming alive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a look then at the foods that, well, first of all, foods that are good for the pineal gland. If we have a look, I mean, it's like a little sack of water, right? That's filled with crystals. So obviously, water
Yeah,
would be the number one thing. Well, that's the number one thing for anything in our body
it
is
is.
water,
But
right?
also, too, if you think about how crystals, water amplifies the energy of the crystal, too, right? So
Right.
making
Yes.
sure that we have lots of water, but it'll also amplify the ability for the pineal gland. Having lots of water amplifies the ability of the pineal gland to communicate with other aspects of the brain.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, for
Um,
sure. For
But
sure.
before we get into the foods, I would really like, we had it on our list to talk about the calcification, right? Or am I jumping ahead?
Yeah, we're just going to get into the interfering components. We can forget about the food for now because we're going to come back to it again anyway. So if we look at the interfering components, so what's going on around our lives and in our lives that is going to calcify the pineal gland, okay? And the number one thing, right, is fluoride.
Mhm.
And it's something that's been put in our water. You go to the dentist, like, I don't know about anybody else, I'm sure when I was a child it was always fluoride treatments. My children, my grandchildren, it was always fluoride treatments at the dentist, right? If you look up fluoride, it's not good. It's really not good.
Rat poison.
And it's right, exactly. So it's again, how much of it have we been lied to about, right, all of our lives, and why? But that's a topic for another discussion.
It is. Yeah.
So if we get back to the pineal gland, the other thing that is really bad for the pineal gland is the synthetic calcium. Okay, so if you look on the labels of the foods that you're eating, you're going to very often find that there's synthetic calcium in there, right? So you have to be careful with that. And then other things that might bother would be things like aluminum. We know that aluminum gets lodged in the brain, and that causes disease like Parkinson, Alzheimer's, those kind of things. Artificial sweeteners, another thing that's not good. Any kind of toxins or chemicals that are in our foods or in our cleaning products, even. And then fast foods, fried foods, not good for the pineal gland either. And
Um,
those are the things. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, another big one is nitrates. We see nitrates a lot in a lot of the packaged foods, especially
Yes.
deli meats. They're really bad. And I find that the nitrates, I see the effects of nitrates almost immediately when I have any.
Yeah. It's full, processed foods are full of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So you really want to be careful with that.
And I like
So
when you put uh, the non-stick cookware, like the Teflon.
yeah, and that's when we get down into getting rid of everything in your life that belongs to well, not that belongs to, but everything in your life. Let's change it so that you could decalcify, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So to decalcify, then we definitely need to eliminate those things that we just talked about. So for fluoride, you want to look at toothpaste as well, right? And it can be named as sulfuryl fluoride as well. So I don't know if those are two different types of fluoride or what, but that's something that we really need to look at. I don't know if you're in the same area as I am of the notes now, Linda, for the decalcification
I
or
just like,
eliminating the
sure.
those things. Another thing is bottled teas.
Yes, I am there. Okay. Yeah.
Bottled teas that has, I guess that would be the nitrate as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
Avoiding
I
processed foods and
that.
spray. Yeah, and then that's where we are with the nonstick. Sorry, Linda, you were closer to it than I was.
But I will say this, okay? And I'm 100% going natural. I'm 100% all of that. But I'm sorry, but they're using fluoride for a reason, and it's not a bad reason. It's not because they're trying to shut down the pineal gland, okay? It's not a conspiracy. I just have to say that. Um, my daughter is really bad at grinding her teeth. Okay, so we never let her brush her teeth with regular toothpaste her whole life. Okay. Her teeth are so soft that when she grinds her teeth at night, she's literally breaking them apart. And so I was like, you know what? I have to do some research here on fluoride because, like, that is what hardens the teeth, right? So I do have to say that it is got a use, and unfortunately, they don't have anything natural that hardens the teeth the same way. They don't. I've looked. But and you know what, that's my opinion, and
Yep, that's it.
I've had to put that into her regimen of brushing with regular toothpaste because there's nothing else that's going to harden her teeth properly.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Which is why they started using it in the dentist. But again, there's, like you say, it's an opinion as to whether there's anything else going on there or not.
I
And
mean,
people will have their own opinions of that.
I don't like her swishing it around her mouth by any means, because I feel like the swishing around your mouth, like with the actual fluoride at school, is getting way more into your gums and way more into what's happening. Sorry, I'm just going to talk about this for a minute. Then
Yeah, no, that's okay.
actually like brushing. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're brushing, you're actually there, you're trying like, and it's more concentrated on the teeth than getting into your whole bloodstream and all of that.
Mhm.
But anyways, again, I have looked at other resources to help to harden her teeth, and unfortunately, there's nothing. When you spend lots of money fixing your child's teeth, you're going to look at why they're using fluoride. Anyway.
So we get into then the other things would be pesticides and herbicides. So best thing is to be doing your own garden, right? It's a big
Yeah.
thing. Eating organic, avoiding the non-stick, like you had mentioned earlier, Linda.
Yes.
Yeah. So all of that stuff is really important, which is why a lot of people are going back to the old ways where they're making their own, they're growing their own garden. They're cooking from scratch. They're not using the not only the processed foods but the bottled foods and everything else that has so many additives to it, right? So those are all things that you want to be careful of. Yeah. And then there are now, next part here, I've got down about some supplements that you can use to decalcify the pineal gland. by no means do we suggest that you go out and start taking all of these supplements without doing your own research. Okay. Because doing your own research is always important. I mean, Linda has opinions. I have opinions. We all have our own opinions. We just have to make sure that what we believe or what we're doing for ourselves, we're 100% aware of what's going on and it is our truth, right? So those things you really have to look into. So the supplements, from what I've found, and I don't know if you found anything further, Linda, the first thing they talk about is iodine. Now, I know for iodine, that's something that I'm really looking into because that helps with the thyroid function. So if the thyroid function is what word am I looking for? Is affected, I guess, by the melatonin that's produced in the pineal gland, and the thyroid lives off of iron, right? I mean, that's how the thyroid operates. So that would make sense that iodine would, not iron, sorry, iodine. That would make sense that the iodine would help with decalcifying the pineal gland, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, because it's going to help with that hormone production.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's something that I'm looking at now too, Linda, for my, I've actually been looking at it for a little while. And they talk about Luger's iodine, I think at 5%, or Luger's, Lugers. Anyway, that's the one that I'm looking into to see if I can get off my thyroid medication. We'll see how that goes. And then there's some other ones here. The second one I don't even know how to pronounce is Shilajit.
I've never heard of that before either. It's a plant
No,
material that forms a thick resin.
yeah. And what it is, it talks about 85 different trace minerals. Now, I do take concentrates, which is trace minerals from the Himalayan, no, not, it's from the Dead Sea.
Yeah, it's magnesium, the trace minerals, the
Yeah, there's a lot more in it than that. I don't know how many are in it, but there's I do take that. So I'm thinking this may be the same or close to the same, but it sounds like it has a lot more trace minerals in this one than it does in the concentrates. Fulvic acid, have you ever heard of that?
No, but to eliminate heavy metals, I've used alpha lipoic acid, which is a natural. You make it in your body on its own, and when you have heavy
Okay.
metals, you get depleted in it. So it's good to take alpha lipoic acids.
Okay, so that may be the same. Turmeric is another one, and we found out recently through studies and stuff, because like I said, science is changing, or I shouldn't say science is changing, we're learning more as we go, and turmeric has come out to be very beneficial over the course of the last little while, the last couple of years, for joint pain and
really high in antioxidants. So it
it's
helps
very high in
bind
antioxidants.
your free radicals, and free radicals are those charged particles floating through your system that's kind of destroying all of your healthy stuff.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it binds with that and it moves it out.
Exactly. Yeah. And so does chaga mushrooms, do the same thing. And that also
Chaga is
helps your
more actually chaga.
helps your
Sorry.
immune. No, it's okay. I wasn't finished. Chaga mushrooms boost your immune system, and it helps you to fight any inflammation. It's also a good cancer preventative, and it lowers your blood sugar and your cholesterol. Yeah. So there's a lot of good things there with all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also is a hormone adaptogen, chaga mushroom.
It's an adaptogen. Yeah. Uh, is it in the adaptogen herbs?
I'm not sure if it's in the adaptogen herbs. That's something that a
Yeah.
lady that I buy it through, that she's an herbologist. She's the one that told me that. So
Oh, that's interesting. I'm just going to look quickly because there's so much to learn about the adaptogen herbs.
mhm.
Yeah, no, it's not listed as an adaptogen, but it's not an herb, it's a mushroom. So it probably wouldn't be in with the adaptogen herbs anyway.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's interesting. I didn't know that it was an adaptogen. So they have adaptogen mushrooms then.
This one here apparently helps your hormone, like helps your adapt your hormone productions. So, and I
Oh,
learned that through her because I was started getting the chaga mushroom through her. They go and they collect it raw in the forest and they cut it all up and they're
yeah, I have a friend
awesome.
who does that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. So
It,
cool.
it
The
is.
other one is the other thing that's really good for us and the pineal gland is the raw. We used to always pronounce it cocoa. Now they call it cacao,
Cacao. Yeah.
raw cacao. And that's really rich in antioxidants. It improves your blood flow to the brain. So that's, and it's also immune stimulating. So, and it helps to improve your nitric oxide levels, which helps to reduce your blood pressure, right?
Hmm.
So there's a couple of other things there that I really hadn't heard about. Baron, have you heard about that before, Linda?
No, no, I haven't. I no, I don't know much about Baron at all.
Okay, and the okay, so the Baron, from what I did the research on that, it's also really good for the arthritises, like rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis.
Okay.
So yeah, so but you have to be careful with it because it may be harmful if you have too much of it. So they don't recommend taking supplements of it. They just recommend on eating foods that are high in baron. So like walnuts and avocados, bananas, that kind of thing. And that helps to decalcify your pineal gland. Then tamarind trees, they produce a pea like a pea pod fruit. And those have really high antioxidant qualities as well, which helps to decalcify the pineal gland. Also prevents the free radicals that you had talked about earlier, and the free radicals that can damage the DNA, right?
Yep.
Raw apple cider vinegar is another one. We know that the raw apple cider vinegar, if anybody who makes their own bone broth, I always add a little bit of raw apple cider vinegar in my bone broth because um, it helps to soften the bones and get the marrow out, right? So if it's doing that, you can imagine that it's going to decalcify the pineal gland as well. I don't know how much of it you'd have to take. That's something you'd have to look into. And then the other thing that we were talking about earlier, Linda, you had mentioned as well, which is the super green foods, right? So the
Yeah.
sea kelp and the chlorophyll and
Spirulina.
spirulina,
Spirulina has
wheatgrass.
been a huge one for me throughout my days of helping. It helps in so many different ways in the body. Like it's just so incredible. So
So, okay, so I have a question for you now, since you've got experience with that. I have spirulina here. I've
Mhm.
never taken it.
Okay.
So I have the powder form,
Yeah.
right? So what do you do? Just put it in smoothies or?
Smoothies. I also make a date bar with it.
Okay.
Um, it's when you put the sweet flavor to it because it's rather bitter without it. But when you put the sweet flavor to it and you add some nuts and stuff, you can like you actually gain a taste for it. But yeah, the best source, the best place to get your spirulina is from Hawaii. That is the best
Oh, okay.
natural source on the planet. Now, there are some companies that have developed their own environment to be able to produce spirulina. And, you know, there are some really good quality ones out there, but the natural one comes from Hawaii, the best. I've had some different from different areas, and I find that certain ones will bother my stomach.
Oh, okay. So I'd
But
have to be careful with that.
yeah, so the one from Hawaii, I find the best, but they're so
Oh,
high in B vitamins. And the thing that's so powerful uh, about spirulina is that it forms so fast that the enzymes that are created from the process of making spirulina are so high, and that's what is the benefit, right? So it's really really high in protein, really really high in B vitamins, and all of your trace minerals too.
okay. So would that have kind of the same taste as what a chlorophyll would have or?
Well, see, they often you don't taste chlorophyll, straight chlorophyll. They usually have some flavoring with it because chlorophyll
Okay,
is
because
not.
the one that I let me just check now. This is the one that I have,
I can't. Do they have?
and there's
Well,
a taste to it.
yeah. Well, but
I love
chlorophyll.
it.
Yeah. Oh, you like the taste of it?
I
Um,
love it.
because we
And
always told.
it tastes like green. Like it tastes like a lot of green vegetables.
Okay, so yes, chlorophyll has, but the spirulina will have more of the gritty dirt kind of taste from it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so Linda Shaffey was positive of COVID on January 29th. Still don't feel completely better. And that's one thing about COVID is it lasts so long and
So long.
it
Yes.
can take some time to get your body, but spirulina would be a great addition to whatever
Mhm.
it is that you're doing. Zinc and vitamin C also with a really good quality multivitamin and a prebiotic.
Yes. Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you can
Zinc and vitamin C for sure. Yeah.
And if you can get some fish oils in there too, that would be great
Yes.
because the fish oils helps to boost your immune system. It works like it goes right into the lymphatic system and it works to kill, and especially your omega-3s are really important for this. Because the omega-3s, the chain are so small, they can get right into the lymphatic system and they start fighting right away.
And I know a lot of people have talked about quercetin as well.
Absolutely. Quercetin is a big one. I just actually started taking that recently, this whole
Yeah.
thing I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. That's what I've got as well. Yeah. So that would be something as well. Well, Linda, we hope we're feeling better soon.
Yeah, me too.
January the 29th, my goodness, that's a month. That's 6 weeks.
That is.
That's 6 weeks. Yeah. So hopefully
Also,
you'll be start to feeling back to yourself pretty soon anyway.
yeah, and also if you could, if you're doing any aromatherapy stuff, especially to get down in those lungs to heal those lungs, I would do some eucalyptus globulus, the globulus
Mm.
brand, and
For
that's
the Yeah, and for the lungs as well, if you wanted to use some herbs, mullein is really good as
yeah.
an herb for the lungs and for the bronchial tube. So if you find that you're doing a lot of coughing, you might want to have a look into that. I make a mullein tincture, or you can use it in a tea and just drink a tea, and that's going to really be soothing for the throat. What else is it? I put in the tea marshmallow root. If you find that your throat is getting anyways sore from coughing or anything like that, you want to add a little bit of marshmallow root. The only thing is, if you're making tea with mullein, you want to be really careful. You don't want to just use a regular tea strainer. You want to make sure that you strain the mullein through a coffee filter, because what happens is the mullein has fine hairs on it. And if you don't strain it really well, those little hairs, those tiny hairs are going to come through the regular tea strainer. And if that gets in your throat, it's really going to irritate it a lot more. So that's something you want to be really careful of. But the mullein itself is a muculant. So if there's anything there that needs to come up, it's going to help bring that up as well. So many things.
I know there is
So many things that are natural that we can use for healing
and
our body, right?
yeah, and when it comes to COVID, unfortunately, it is a long healing process.
According to what they say, but there have been some that have just come through it like that, right? So it
Exactly.
just depends on who you are and what your immune system is to start with.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it wouldn't hurt for all of us to be taking, I know I do, vitamin C for sure on
And
a daily basis, and many other things as well. But vitamin C is something that you just can't do without.
it's not. Yeah.
And there's other ones as well. But again, the vitamin C is what helps your body heal, right? So,
Yeah. Well, and we're one of the only animals on the planet that doesn't produce their own vitamin C from their food.
oh, is that right?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think dogs don't too, but I think besides that, most animals make their own vitamin C.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not perfect then.
And depending on your digestive tract and it's hard, like sometimes you don't absorb the amount of vitamin C that your body actually needs. And if you overdose it, like if you overdose, no, you can't
You
overdose in
can't do
vitamin
those.
C. You can't take too much, right? Your body doesn't use it, excretes the rest. But just remember that
Yeah.
when you do take high amounts, wean yourself off over the next few days, because your
Mm.
body will go into a detox mode where it won't take any vitamin C from the diet for a while until it's, so you need to kind of slowly come off by
Right,
eating.
right. Yeah, for sure. All right. So where are we, Linda?
Well, we can start with interfering. So stuff that interferes with the pineal gland. Again, we talked about fluoride, synthetic calciums. You already talked about all this stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so. We're gone
All right.
down
So
fast.
we're getting towards the end, though.
Oh, well, there. Well, we should be because it's 3 o'clock.
I know.
So we're gone. Maybe what we should do, Linda, is save the next part for next time.
Yeah,
We
because
talked
we
about,
can do, yeah, we can do the
yeah, because we're getting into the next session we had talked about. We're going to do it on breath. And so the little activation of the pineal gland, what we were going to do actually has to do with breath. So why don't we just bring that on over to the next one?
That's right.
And because I don't know where this hour went.
I know. We went fast.
Really fast.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we'll bring that on. We'll bring that activation of the pineal gland. We can bring it on over to the next episode, which will be next week. And we'll be talking about breath. So activating the pineal gland all has to do with breath. Well, doesn't all have to do with breath, but there's one way that we can do it that does with that is with the breath. And I was actually looking at a couple more, Linda, as well. They're called, let me see what they're called. I was looking at it before we started here, and they're called the triangulation meditation. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
And then the other one is the projective technique activation of the pineal gland. So they're pretty interesting. I want to have a closer look at them and see what that's all about. And maybe we'll have a look at it together and see how that goes for next week.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So do you have any, I don't have a shout out right now. Do you have a shout out?
I don't have a shout out either, unfortunately. So
Okay. And do you have any announcements at all other than just the regular everyday?
Yep. The inner child programs are still running. If you're interested in getting in and doing that kind of work, it's definitely a great little retreat, a 3-day thing to get into. Nothing crazy.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. So we didn't have a whole lot of communication with anybody watching today, but if you enjoyed what you listened to, by all means, share out the podcast if you think anybody else might benefit from it. And that's pretty much it, I guess. Did you have anything else, Linda?
No, that's all. Do you have any announcements? You don't have any announcements?
No, I don't have anything either.
Perfect.
We're kind of just gone over, so.
That sounds great. Okay, thank you everybody for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. See you next week.
Bye.